Helpline. Good morning, everybody. Welcome you one and all to the lecture class on the second half of hypertension. As you discussed in the previous lecture class on hypertension about the introduction of hypertension, the what we call the problem statement of hypertension in the globe as well as in India, and what is tracking of blood pressure, what is rule of halves, and we start about the epidemiology of hypertension. The epidemiology of hypertension, we come to know about what are the various modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Hey, Girish. So the risk factors of hypertension, as per the WHO scientific group, generally meant for essential hypertension, or for which there's no specific etiology of this type of hypertension. So, what are the non-modifiable risk factors? Then our was age, sex, genetic factors, and ethnicity. As you know that blood pressure rises with age in both the sexes, and age is a programmed sequence of genetic events and senescence, and it has been seen that with age, rise in age, there is increase in blood pressure in sexes. It has been seen in males and females, especially young adolescent males, the blood pressure is more, and it remains more or less equal in the middle age, in the young and middle age. Whereas in the postmenopausal days, women are seen to have higher blood pressure compared to that of males, and this is where we are going to explore whether estrogen has any role in the elevation of blood pressure in postmenopausal women. And genetic factors. It has been observed that the hypertension is polygenic. It means that more than one gene is involved in the inheritance of hypertension, and this is better known by twin studies and family studies. In twin studies, it is observed that in monozygotic twins, the blood pressure is increased, whereas in dizygotic twins, the blood pressure is not increased. So it shows that the rise in blood pressure in monozygotic twins is because of genetic factors. And also in family studies, it has been observed that there is a 3% chance of developing hypertension in a offspring of normotensive parents, whereas there is a 50% chance of developing hypertension in a offspring of hypertensive parents. So twin studies and family studies help us to understand about the role of genetic factors in inheritance of hypertension, but identification of genes as well as the loci at the exact positions where the hypertension is affected, where the hypertension is caused, is not exactly known. Ethnicity, it has been observed that blood pressure is more in blacks compared to other ethnic races. So it has been observed that among the blacks, especially in the second decade, there is a rise of 2 to 5 millimeters of mercury compared to in the adult in the middle age, where there is a chance of 5 to 10 millimeters, more than 10 millimeters of mercury, the rise of blood pressure compared to the whites. It has been observed that the blacks or the Negroes, especially in US, or the black Americans of African origin, are seen to have higher blood pressure compared to that of the whites staying in the United States of America. So, as I said, the risk factors for hypertension are basically divided into non-modifiable and modifiable risk factors. Non-modifiable risk factors are also known as immutable risk factors, are factors which cannot be changed. They are born with us, and they are the potential risk factors for hypertension. Now, what are the modifiable risk factors? It has been seen that obesity contributes to hypertension. Why these factors are called modifiable? Because with intervention, we can always reduce the impact of the risk factors by reducing them, or by curtailing them, or by containing them, or modifying them. So obesity is associated with central, especially the central obesity is associated with hypertension, and central obesity is often marked by the increased waist to hip ratio. So if the waist hip ratio is more than a certain mark, then there's every chance of the person getting hypertension. So obesity is directly related to central obesity is directly related to hypertension. And salt intake. If there is a salt intake of more than 7 to 8 grams a day, there is there has been it has been noted that there is a rise in blood pressure or hypertension. Usually, if the sodium intake is high, the blood pressure is also high. So it has been observed if the blood pressure is more than 100 millimoles or 200 millimoles, millimoles of consumption of salt, then the blood pressure is more. That is what is observed in the Japanese. So the other factors which can reduce the blood pressure are potassium. Potassium supplements are seen to reduce the impact of sodium and thereby the reduction of blood pressure. And calcium, cadmium, and magnesium are seen also to reduce the rise of blood pressure. Saturated fat. It has been observed that saturated fat, increase in the consumption of saturated fat in the dietary pattern or dietary in our diet is seen to influence the increase in cholesterol and LDL cholesterol, which are also seen to contribute to rise in blood pressure. Low dietary fiber consumption causes high blood pressure. So dietary fiber is in a way increased dietary fiber in a way of increased consumption can reduce total cholesterol as well as LDL and VLDL cholesterol. Alcohol consumption. There is always a limit to the alcohol consumption, and high alcohol consumption has been seen to raise systolic blood pressure compared to that of diastolic blood pressure, and alcohol is incriminated as one of the agents which is responsible for the condition of blood pressure. Heart rate. It has been seen that heart rate is more in hypertensive compared to that of non-hypertensive because of the reset of the sympathetic activity. So what we observe is generally the heart rate is more in hypertensives compared to that of non-hypertensives. Physical activity. It has been seen that physical activity contributes to weight loss and decreased waist hip ratio or waist circumference, and thereby the reduction of cholesterol levels and lipid levels, which also reduces the hypertension. Environmental stress. It has been observed that stress contributes to the rise in blood pressure, and usually, but this hypothesis is yet to be proved. But stress has been seen to trigger the sympathetic overactivity and the noradrenaline levels, which may contribute to high levels of blood pressure in adults. Socioeconomic status. It has been observed that in pre-epidemiological transition, pre-epidemiological and economic transition, it has been observed that blood pressure is high blood pressure is seen among the members of higher socioeconomic status. But in post, epidemiological and economic transition, in countries where there is post-economic and epidemiological transition, the inhabitants are seen to have high blood pressure in people of low socioeconomic status. So it means that in pre-epidemiological transition, we have high blood pressure in high socioeconomic status, but in post-epidemiological and economic transition, the people of a particular country are seen to have high blood pressure in low socioeconomic status. This it signifies the beginning of the epidemic of hypertension among the people in the country. Other factors which may contribute to are oral contraceptive pills, especially the estrogen component may contribute to hypertension. Noise, vibration, temperature and humidity also are factors which are responsible for the contribution to the high rise of blood pressure or hypertension. prevention of hypertension. Um, the low prevalence of hypertension in certain communities makes us understand that hypertension can be prevented, or hypertension can be brought down, or the prevalence of hypertension can be brought down. So this is possible by various means. One is primary prevention and secondary prevention. Primary prevention is a reduction of the incidence of disease in the population by reducing the risk of onset. So you reduce the risk of onset in the population so that there is decrease in the incidence of the disease in the population. And primary prevention, and though secondary prevention is responsible for the reduction of blood pressure or hypertension, reduction of high blood pressure or hypertension, it is also primary, but it is a primary prevention which forms a cornerstone or the main goal for the prevention of hypertension or reduction of hypertension. So primary prevention and secondary prevention are mostly complementary. So here complementary, and they both are needed for the reduction of hypertension or reduction of high blood pressure. So primary prevention, the various strategies under primary prevention, as we know earlier, is population strategy and high risk strategy. The main aim of population strategy is the reduction of blood pressure in the population. So the small reduction in the blood pressure of the population will lead to a large reduction, in the incidence of disease, of coronary heart disease and stroke among the population. So the population strategy focuses upon the risk factors in the population rather than the individual risk factors or the risk factors in the individual. So any intervention that is done to reduce the blood pressure, even by 2 to 3 millimeters of mercury in the population, will have a huge impact in the reduction of the cardiovascular events or coronary heart disease and stroke among the population. So that is why the population strategy is very, very important when we speak about hypertension. And what are the various interventions that are come under population strategy is nutrition, weight reduction, exercise promotion, behavioral changes, health education, self-care. So nutrition is a very important strategy, population strategy. Then in under nutrition, what we have is the reduction of salt intake to less than 5 grams per day among the population. Then moderation of alcohol intake or avoidance of high alcohol intake. Then the reduction of consumption of saturated fat, and also increasing the consumption of fibers, dietary fibers. These are all the nutrition factors that are responsible for the reduction of blood pressure among the population. Weight reduction is very important. It has been seen that the BMI, one should not exceed the BMI of more than or equal to 25 kg per meter square. So every method should be adopted as far as the reduction of weight is concerned, so that the BMI should not exceed more than 25 kg per meter square among the inhabitants of the population. So weight reduction is very, very important. Exercise promotion. As we mentioned earlier, exercise is so important, which also contributes to weight reduction. Exercise for 30 minutes a day for almost 5 to 6 days in a week is very important, and this helps in reduction of weight and therefore in other things. Behavioral changes are very, very important, especially reduction of stress, following yoga and transcendental meditation, and other things which one can adapt among the population, so that they can bring down the rise of hypertension, or rise of blood pressure in the population. Health education, educating the masses, educating the population about the risk factors like smoking, alcohol, obesity, consumption of saturated fat, or high salt intake. All these have to be educated among the public, among the population members of the population, so that the population can make necessary behavioral changes as far as the control of blood pressure, or as far as the rise of hypertension is concerned. This is very, very important, as one is concerned about the prevention of hypertension in the population. Self-care among the members of the population is very, very important. It is important that each of the persons concerned with the hypertension or high blood pressure should maintain a logbook and maintain the observations or the recordings of the blood pressure in the logbook. This brings down the burden on the official practices or healthcare practices. So the healthcare staff and the healthcare management is not burdened by this daily noting of blood pressure in patients or in the population. So one has to maintain a logbook, and this is very also important to understand about this prevalence of blood pressure or the prevalence of various types of blood pressure or prevalence of hypertension among the various levels, and this is of statistical importance. So the population strategy one should understand is nutrition, number one. Number two is weight reduction. Number three is exercise promotion. Number four is behavioral changes. Number five is health education. And number six is self-care. So population strategy is very, very important. Sometimes it comes in a short note, population strategy in control of hypertension or prevention of hypertension. So the table in the next slide shows some of the lifestyle modifications to manage hypertension. So lifestyle modifications to manage hypertension. Number one is weight reduction. Maintain normal body weight. Body mass index is 18. Normal body mass index is 18, or platelets index is 18.5 to 24.9 kg per meter square. BMI is measured by weight in kgs by height in meters square. So approximate systolic blood pressure, which will reduce because of maintenance of normal body weight in a hypertensive, is 5 to 20 millimeters of mercury per 10 kg weight loss. So for every 10 kg weight loss, there is every chance of reduction of 5 to 20 millimeters of mercury. That's why the weight reduction is so important for all of us in the coming years to come if you have to maintain a normal blood pressure. Adopt DASH eating plan. What is DASH eating plan? DASH is dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So what are the various diets that we need to adopt or we need to consume so that we can stop hypertension or prevent hypertension or reduce hypertension? So the dietary advices that are suggested are we must consume a diet rich in fruits. So seasonal fruits. Fruits may not be available at all times, of all types, in all times in a year. So seasonal fruits are very, very important as far as their consumption is concerned. Vegetables, then we should have a high number of vegetable curries, a large number of vegetable curries, which have a lot of vegetables, especially the dark green leafy vegetables, and low dairy products, especially skimmed milk, and avoidance of high-fat dairy products with a reduced content of saturated and total fat. So this will contribute to reduction of 18 to 14 millimeters of mercury, especially in systolic blood pressure, especially in hypertensives. Dietary sodium reduction. So you have to, sodium reduction is so important as far as the blood pressure is concerned. As we have said, we have to consume less than 5 grams per day. So reduction of sodium intake, not more than 100 millimoles per day, that is 6 grams of sodium chloride or 5 grams of sodium chloride, as the World Health Organization stipulates, also contributes to 280 millimeters of mercury. So we should try to avoid high salt intake as much as possible. And most of us, especially Indians, we have a tendency to add salt to our rice when we mix with curd, or we consume a lot of pickles. So one should avoid the consumption of additional intakes of salt or consumption of pickles, high consumption of pickles, so as to reduce systolic blood pressure. So one can always cook foods without salt, so that the salt can be added later, depending upon taste and depending upon the requirement for a particular individual. So family type of foods are always cooked, taking in mind that salt is not added, and the salt is added later if possible, or salt is added very less to a curry or to a particular food item, so that the reduction of blood pressure is concerned. So dietary sodium reduction contributes to around 2 to 8 millimeters of mercury systolic blood pressure. Physical activity. So engage in regular aerobic physical activities such as brisk walking. So brisk walking is very, very important. One can always do the brisk walking, especially in the morning or especially in the evening. So at least 30 minutes per day at most days of the week. So almost 6 days in a week, we can have around 30 minutes of regular walking, and this contributes to the reduction of blood pressure to 4 to 9 millimeters of mercury. Moderation of alcohol consumption. Limit consumption to no more than 2 drinks, that is 1 ounce of 30 ml of ethanol. So 30 ml of ethanol is the limit fixed per consumption of alcohol per day, and this 30 ml of alcohol is equivalent to 24 ounces of beer, or 10 ounces of wine, or 3 ounces of 80 proof whiskey per day in most men, and to not more than 1 drink per day. So what I said is they should be restricted to 30 ml of ethanol, especially. So not more than 1 drink per day in women and lighter weight persons, and to no more than 1 drink per day in women and lighter weight persons. So care should be taken with the consumption of alcohol. So this contributes to around 2 to 4 millimeters of mercury. So the maximum impact of reduction of blood pressure lies in weight reduction, and for weight reduction, exercise is so important. So weight reduction and dietary habits are very, very important as far as management of hypertension, and one can always adopt this population strategy as far as the reduction of blood pressure is concerned. So DASH is, please remember, DASH is dietary approaches to stop hypertension. High risk strategy. The approach is appropriate if the risk factors occur with a very low prevalence in the community. It is the this applies to high risk individuals, and if the risk factors are present with a low prevalence in the community. It is the application of measures to such a level where the institution to prevent where the institution of high institution of therapy needed to control high blood pressure. So it is all the steps which are required to cause reduction of blood pressure, and it is the attainment of it is the intervention required in the attainment of high blood pressure where the institution of therapy is important. So this is always followed by optimal clinical methods using a sphygmomanometer, and you can always try to estimate the prevalence of hypertension in families where there is clustering of hypertension in the families, and usually the blood pressure, if there is a rise of blood pressure in the families, there is a rise of blood pressure in the among the family members especially, and this is very important as far as this control of blood pressure or high blood pressure is concerned. So if there is a familial rise, if the families are having high blood pressure, there is every chance that the children in the family or the siblings in the family may be having high blood pressure. Secondary prevention is the deals with screening programs and case detection, and also involves treatment. So early case detection is very important, especially among the people. So there is every chance that in the developed countries there is no mass screening of blood pressure, but in those countries there is every chance that the person comes in contact with the health system every 2 years, and in this process they can detect whether they are having high blood pressure or not. So early case detection is very, very important, and it is mandated that people who are having risk factors or there is a family history of hypertension, that their blood pressure has to be measured, and in this way we can detect cases as soon as possible. Treatment is instituted to those cases of blood pressure, those cases having high blood pressure, and treatment is very important. We have a host of drugs that are available for the treatment of hypertension, and in many cases treatment results in a decrease in the morbidity and mortality, like cardiac failure, renal failure, or myocardial infarction, which may occur, and stroke, which may occur because of high blood pressure. Patient compliance. Patient compliance implies the patient behavior in relation to the prescription given by the doctor or the physician. So whether the patient is taking the drugs, correct drugs, regularly in the right doses, the right time periods is very, very important, and compliance is a must, especially as far as the reduction of blood pressure is concerned. So this can be always possible by the physician or the medical officer in regularly following the people or the patients having high blood pressure or hypertension. Thank you for your patient hearing. We have finished the chapter on hypertension. For a brief recap, as I said, this hypertension is very, very important chapter, and it may come as a long question in the university examination. Describe the epidemiology of hypertension. Write a note on prevention and management of hypertension. Short notes are usually tracking of blood pressure, uh, rule of halves. Then we have um, primary prevention in hypertension. That is population strategy and high risk strategy. Dash. What is dash? Dietary approach to stop hypertension. Sometimes short notes can be the modifiable risk factors of hypertension. Sometimes it can be non-modifiable risk factors of hypertension. And one must know that we have a national program for the control of hypertension, that is National Program for the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases like cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and stroke. So cardiovascular disease and stroke includes hypertension, and the government does have a program as far as the control of hypertension is concerned. So we have finished this chapter on hypertension, and one can understand this hypertension is very, very important as far as this exams are concerned. So this finishes your class on hypertension.
Very, very sure.